In the Wyoming Territory of 1883, the wind sliced down from the Bighorn Mountains, sharp with dust and a faint promise of snow. Catherine Hale stood outside the dry goods store in Sheridan, her thin shawl pulled tight against the chill. In her hand, an empty basket dangled, meant for flour, beans, maybe salt pork if luck allowed, but luck had long abandoned her. Inside, the shopkeeper's voice cut sharper than the wind. "No credit," he barked, turning away before she could respond. The words stung, but Catherine didn't argue. She nodded once, chin steady, and stepped off the wooden porch into the dirt street. Her stomach ached from hunger. She hadn't eaten since yesterday, and her son Micah had only a half biscuit that morning. Still, she refused to cry, not here in the middle of town where every glance felt like judgment. Her dress hem dragged through the dust as she walked, blinking against the sting in her eyes. Sheridan buzzed around her. Wagon wheels creaked. Horses snorted. Men laughed outside the saloon. But she felt isolated, as if the town had turned its back. A few steps away, a man leaned against a post by the livery, hat low, arms crossed over a worn but clean coat. His boots, scuffed yet sturdy, stood planted like he could weather any storm. He watched her openly, not hiding his gaze. "You got turned away for food," he said, his voice low and certain, carrying across the space between them. Catherine stopped, the empty basket suddenly heavy. She stiffened, then gave a small nod. "I'll figure something out," she said quietly, her eyes flicking toward the road leading to her wagon. He pushed off the post and stepped closer, moving with a steady, unhurried stride that carried no doubts. "Come with me," he said, simple as offering a hand. "I'll fill your table tonight." Her grip tightened on the basket. "You don't even know me." "Don't need to," he replied. "You've got a child to feed. That's enough." Her gaze dropped to the dust at their feet. "I can't take charity." "It's not charity," he said. "It's supper." "Come on." Something in his voice, firm yet gentle, left no room for shame. Catherine looked up, really looked at him. His face was weathered but not harsh, his eyes holding a softness that didn't match his rugged frame. A faint crease at his mouth suggested he'd once smiled often but had forgotten how. He wasn't young, maybe mid-30s, but there was a steadiness in him that made her feel anchored just standing near. Slowly, she nodded. He tipped his head and led her across the street to a muddy buckboard wagon, his horse tied nearby. "Name's Celas Whitlo," he said, lifting the reins. "Catherine Hale," she replied, climbing onto the seat. "My son's back at our place, just outside town by the creek." Silas flicked the reins, and the wagon rolled forward. "Then that's where we'll go." The ride was quiet, but not the strained silence of strangers. It was a stillness that allowed breath. The wagon wheels creaked along the dirt road as the sun dipped, painting the hills gold. Catherine watched his hands on the reins, strong, weathered, steady, knowing both labor and restraint. When they turned off the main road and followed the creek, her homestead came into view. A leaning cabin, its roof patched with tar paper and hope. A boy stood on the porch, barefoot and thin, watching with wide eyes as the wagon approached. "That your boy?" Silas asked. "Yes," Catherine said, her voice softening. "Micah, he's 7. Silas stopped the wagon. Catherine climbed down, and Micah ran to her. She caught him, lifting him with a strength born of necessity. "We have a guest," she told him gently. "He's going to help us tonight." Micah looked at the stranger with hungry eyes. "You got food?" Silas gave a small smile. "More than that. You like rabbit stew?" Micah's face lit up. "I do." From the wagon, Silas unloaded supplies: salt pork, beans, potatoes, flour, even venison wrapped in cloth. Catherine's breath caught at the sight. She opened her mouth, but he shook his head, stopping her. "Let's cook," he said simply. The cabin's kitchen was small, but the fire warmed it quickly. Silas moved with ease, chopping vegetables while Catherine mixed flour and water for biscuits. Micah sat at the table, eyes wide as the smell of roasting meat filled the room. "You cook like a ranch wife," Catherine said, watching his quiet skill. "Raised on a ranch," Silas replied. "Ma died when I was 16. Learned what I had to." She nodded, stirring the pot. "Your father?" "Gone before I can remember," he said, eyes on the stew. "Any family now?" He shook his head. Just me. Catherine didn't ask more, and he didn't offer. Some stories were too heavy for a first night, but as the pot bubbled and laughter stirred, the cabin felt alive in a way it hadn't in weeks. Micah ate with a boy's hunger, and Catherine's heart ached watching him smile again. After supper, with Micah tucked into bed, Catherine stepped onto the porch. The night was clear, stars sharp against the dark. Silas stood at the rail, arms crossed, gazing upward. "Thank you," she said quietly. He looked at her. "Any time." "You didn't have to do this. Wanted to." "You're kind," she whispered. He shrugged. "Don't know about that." "You are," she said firmly. "It's been a long time since someone showed us kindness." He met her eyes, and the silence between them felt like a promise. "Doesn't have to be the last time," he said. Her heart beat faster, not from fear, but from something she'd thought lost, hope. "You mean that?" "I do." The porch boards creaked under their boots. The night air was sharp, but she felt warm. "Will you come back tomorrow?" she asked. "I will," he said without pause. She smiled, real and alive. "Good," Silas tipped his hat. "Good night, Catherine." "Good night, Silas." He walked to his wagon, the wheels creaking as he turned toward town. Just before the bend, he looked back. She stood on the porch, watching him go, waiting for his return. Morning came with frost on the cabin windows and a pale rose sky over the hills. Catherine moved quietly, adding a log to the fire while Micah slept under his quilt. She set oats to boil, her thoughts drifting to the wagon tracks outside, hoof prints pressed deep in the frozen lane. By mid-morning, she heard hooves again, slow, steady, deliberate. Her heart quickened. She wiped her hands on her apron as Silas rode into the yard, his coat buttoned against the cold. He dismounted, tying the reins, meeting her eyes like he knew his welcome. "You found your way back?" she said. "I did," Silas replied. "Roads rougher past the creek, but the horse didn't mind." She stepped aside from the door. "Come in if you're not in a rush." "Not in any particular one," he said, setting his hat by the hearth. Micah looked up from the corner, playing with a wooden block. His face lit with recognition. Catherine touched his shoulder. "You remember Mr. Whitlo?" "Yes, ma'am," Micah said. Silas nodded. "Morning, son. You help your mama with chores?" "Yes, sir." "I carry wood. Feed the hens, too." "That's good work," Silas said, not talking down. "A cabin this size doesn't run itself." Catherine poured hot water into a basin. "There's fence down out back. Deer broke through last week." "I can take a look if you've got spare wire," Silas offered, rolling up his sleeves. Her surprise showed, though she tried to hide it. "I've some under the lean-to." "I'll get started before the ground hardens," he said, glancing at the pale winter sun. While he worked, Catherine sat by the window, patching Micah's shirts. She paused to watch Silas along the fence line, his movement steady, purposeful. He didn't grumble, just did what needed doing. That steadiness filled the cabin with a peace she hadn't known in years. By midday, the fence stood straight. Silas came in, dirt on his boots, a scrape on his forearm he didn't mention. She handed him a plate with last night's biscuits and saved ham. He sat by the fire, stretching his legs. "You've got good land here," he said. "Water close? Trees for shelter?" "It was my husband's," she said softly, eyes on her sewing. "We came from Kansas 5 years back." "He built the beams with his own hands." Silas grew quiet. "He passed here?" She nodded. 2 winters ago. Fever took him fast. The silence held weight, but not the kind that pressed her down. It was the quiet of someone who understood loss. "I buried my mother near Laramie," Silas said after a moment. She liked the wind there. Said it kept her honest. Catherine looked up. "You've been alone a long time," he shrugged. "Took work where I could. Drove cattle, built rail grades, rode dispatch. Never stayed long anywhere." "You planning to stay now?" she asked carefully. Silas met her eyes. "Any reason I shouldn't?" She shook her head. "No reason I can think of." That afternoon, he rode to town for supplies. Catherine walked him out. "You don't owe us anything," she said. "I know," he replied. "That's not why I'm coming back." Her hand lifted, brushing dust from his coat collar. "Then I'll be here." He nodded, mounted, and rode off. She watched until he vanished beyond the creek's bend. By late afternoon, he returned, wagon wheels cracking ice in the ruts. He carried a crate from the bed. "Found window glass," he said. "Traded stirrups for it. Fellow at the smithy owed me." Catherine's eyes widened. "I'll keep it wrapped till spring. No sense fixing panes while the ground's frozen. Brought oilcloth, too," he added. "Might keep the cold out." Micah ran from inside, hair uneven. "I finished the kindling," he said proudly. "You haul it yourself?" Silas asked. "Yes, sir." "Dragged it in a sack. Next time, twist the top and tie it off." "Stops it catching," Silas said, his voice easy. Micah nodded, absorbing every word. Catherine noticed her boy stand straighter, as if proving himself. Warmth bloomed in her chest. That night they ate stew stretched with turnips, but Micah laughed more than he had in months. After supper, Catherine stitched by the fire while